So welcome to the Peacebuilding Power Up. Just in case I disappear for some reason, we have backups and people who will be recording this. And I want to say a big, 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 big welcome and thank you to our Titans. I like to call them the Titans of peace building. And there are many Titans all over the world. These are not the only Titans, obviously. But these are my very special friends and mentors and just really, really kind professionals who have tons and wealth of experience to bring to the table. Hi, Andrea. I'm also going to make you a co-host so you can have a copy as well. And to make sure that in case there are any issues with internet, for those of us who work out of these areas, we all know how that can be a bit erratic. So let me just quickly do that. If everything would just stop moving. Okay. So, welcome to the Peace Building Power Up. I'm starting it off. My name is Safia Ibn Garba, and yeah, you'll get to know a bit more about me, but actually, more importantly, our Titans today. So, I will be introducing not just this session, but the session that's coming up next year. Um, Joining this teaser means there's some interest from you in our 2026 Peacebuilding Masterclass. And I'm so, so grateful that you're here. And I'm hoping that you will have a fulfilling and useful experience today. We have some of our Titans here, so not all of them will be on the session for today for, scheduling conflicts, but all the same, we are very, very grateful to those who are here. Today we have Andrea Thomas, David is here, Edson is here, Hollister and Kathy. Ingrid will join us in a little bit, and Marcia as well. These are the amazing professionals that have joined us today. So I'm going to start us off with an introduction of the Peace Building Masterclass. Let me just share my screen so that you can see that. Because you're probably wondering, what what are we here for? What exactly is this? If you read it, you would see that this is a taste of what's to come next year. So, just starting it off with telling you about the main master class, which is scheduled for next year, um, in between February and April, in 2026. And we just want you to kind of start to get into the mood, share, tell your friends about it. I believe you can see my screen now. I hope you can. Yeah, okay, excellent. So, obviously, this is today, um, and these are the people that are with us for today. Um, I'm going to share with you the link to where you can get a lot more information about the masterclass, how you can learn about who these amazing people are. In fact, I'm surprised that I was able to get together this team. I'm very honored. So this is the introduction to the Three Ps Peace Building Masterclass that will be happening in 2026. And essentially what it is we're going to go over a number of topics. In fact, one of the topics, we just had another Titan confirm, I think, a few days ago. So that's the only topic that's not here. And she's going to be speaking around community mental health and well-being and how that contributes to peace in a community. However, these are the topics that are going to be covered in the course of the 2026 Peace Building Masterclass. And they include global security, global peace building instruments, and the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda. You may have heard a lot about that. And this is a unique opportunity to spend 2 hours with an expert on this topic to help us better understand it and, its applicability and so on. We also have including and engaging the quiet voices. So the first one will be done by Dr. Titi Lokpe Ajayi, and you will see who the titans are. Um, Jan Keck will be speaking about including and engaging the quiet voices. So when we work within the space of peace building, we do know that in different groups, even when you're just facilitating a group, you have more dominant people and those who are not. So we want to understand that when you bring groups together, how do you encourage discussion amongst even those who would not necessarily speak a lot? Peace education for international understanding is coming from Andrea. She has decades of experience of traveling all over the world and engaging with different groups and just using the power of education and connection. Peace building in fragile and high risk context. Nigerians will say my boss, my Oga David, is going to be speaking about this topic. And yeah, in fact, even today, I think he's definitely going to blow your mind about some of the places that he has worked in and continues to work and lead excellent work. Peace building through photography, Ingrid, who also has decades of experience of the use of photography for peace building and bringing groups together and encouraging discuss. Building a global peace building community. I have my amazing ladies who give such a warm, just glow from them, Kathy and Hollister, with the Euphrates Institute. And, ever since I got to meet them, not face to face even, I just feel like I'm part of their family. So they're going to tell us more about that. Harnessing the power of sports, peace building from grassroots to policy. Edison is going to be taking us through that. Edison is decades of sport. There are also sports people here today, and Edison will be talking about real peace building at the grassroots and how we can connect the policy and the actual practice of peace building. So beyond the words, beyond the paper. Artificial Intelligence for Peace Building will be by Crystal. Crystal is a young UNICEF Foresight Fellow, and she will be speaking about AI. So, it's such an intriguing element of peace building that's coming up now. How can AI be used for peace building actually, when we know that there's so many ethical things, ethical concerns about AI, but also it's incredibly invaluable for so many other things. Inclusive peace building will be by Mercia, and Marcia has spent decades and decades working using sport for development and for peace building. She's also worked with the Paralympic Olympic Committee in her nation. So she'll be telling us not just necessarily that group, but just generally, how do we approach inclusive peace building? It goes beyond just adding numbers of women, numbers of this, and so on. And then I will kick it off actually next year with talking about the journey of the peace builder and the peace building masterclass itself. So if you want to put a bit more detail about that, the tickets are open now, open for sale. Know that you're going to get at least 24 hours of intense expert sessions. 12 sessions they will be, including a group mentoring session. So that group mentoring session will be really bringing as many of our titans together for us to just discuss after we go through all the topics. And this is it's an exclusive deal. I mean, seriously, you cannot get this. I don't know, you're doing a course for 2 weeks, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars. But this, I encourage us to save towards it, and any other ways, tell your friends. This is a unique, one of a kind opportunity. So these are the amazing titans. So that's Titi Lokpe, that she's Nigeria, Ghana, so across. Jan Keck is joining us from Germany. Andrea from the United States, David, Norway, and Malta. And if you attended the session, you're going to get this presentation. So you'll be able to see a bit more. And it also includes more information where you can get more information. So we love putting faces to to the names. And so that's Ingrid from Spain, United Kingdom, Hollister, who's here. Kathy is also here, but from United States. Edson is here from Zimbabwe. And we have Crystal from Kenya, Marcia from Zimbabwe, Felicia Latson. So she's the 12th Titan who's joined up, who couldn't initially, but she's now with us. And then you have me, okay? And so I apologize ahead of time. So yeah, these are our titans for the 2026 Peacebuilding Masterclass. You're asking, how do I secure a spot? This is the web page. Okay, you can please put it in the chat. You can find out all the information. It has the bios of our speakers, our experts. It has the session list, the learning outcomes, and so on from each of the sessions. And then you want to make a payment. The payment is just 120 US dollars. You can use a secure payment, the PayPal app. You can pay either via your PayPal or card. That works as well. And then once you have made your payments, you then register for the Peacebuilding Masterclass. You will also receive, aside from all the amazing knowledge and experience that this will bring to us, you also get a certificate of participation, which you can share on your socials and on your professional profiles and platforms. So there is a lot. I encourage you even to go to the webpage and look at it and see all that you're going to be able to benefit from the Peacebuilding Masterclass. And I'm just so passionate and so happy that we have this. It's a dream and it's coming to reality. So, me trying to be philosophical here, I'm saying that you need to invest in yourself because you are too valuable not to. Um, a lot of us within the space, whether it's a nonprofit space, development, peace building, or humanitarian, we do understand that we give of ourselves a lot, but you need to take the time to fill yourself back up as well. So, my encouragement is that we take the time to invest in ourselves and be part of the 2026 Peace Building Masterclass, brought to you from us with love. These are our contacts. You can contact us by email, WhatsApp. That's the website. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all under that name, Sophia Ibn Garba, DTRF. So I think I am done with my pitch. I want to say a big thank you for following so far. And now we're going to go into the meat of it for today. We're going to have a bit of a free-flowing conversation, if I can put it that way. And you're gonna hear it. I'm just gonna be following as well. I'll just be serving humbly as the host. And we're gonna kick it off actually with Andrea. And Andrea, I'm gonna just go ahead, put you on the spot and start asking about what is happening around the world today. So the question is, with the evolving and escalating violent conflict dynamics around the world today, and we all know how vital peace is for the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. Um, Essentially, you can't achieve the others if there's no peace. What role can peace education play in international understanding? Over to you.
Thanks so much, Sophia. And it's really, oh, sorry about that. I think there was a little bit of a delay. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. It's great to be with all of you who have joined and all of the Titans. And that's a really fantastic question. Most importantly, what I would say is that the Sustainable Development Goals are, and for those of you who are not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, they are 17 key indicators that have been defined by the United Nations with key metrics to attain peace. And so I think looking at it from that perspective of we can have peace if we look at the roadmap to having peace, and each one kind of latch key onto the other. The Sustainable Development Goals have my personal favorites, which are quality education, peace, which is SDG 16, and 17, which is infrastructure. But they also focus on poverty and food security, maternal newborn child health, health and well-being, climate change, and all of these other areas where we have the opportunity to collaborate with each other in the world. And I think the challenge is collaboration. Do we have the willingness to collaborate with people to affect change? And being willing to affect change comes with having to be able to navigate challenge. So it's easy to say it, but it's not always easily done. And so, what I think is really important to consider when we talk about peace education for understanding is not just talking about the concept of peace as if it's an ideal, but that peace is the way. And by taking care of ourselves in a holistic way, we allow ourselves the opportunity, the best way to show up. And so one of the elements that I get to use to facilitate peace within education is virtual exchange. And virtual exchange is creating the conditions for international peer collaborations. And so that might look like a university in Nigeria, a university in Rwanda, a university in Jordan, collaborating with a university in the United States, and just having the opportunity for people to get to know each other. And I think the way that is viewed a lot of times is that, oh, it's like, oh, yeah, that'd be so great. We could just have people come together and talk. But the truth is, there are so many different cultural nuances that we all experience at these tables or these virtual forums and these, technological settings that have to be considered when we're engaging with people, especially if we want to produce an outcome. I think the idea is that we want to produce an outcome. So, whoops. Okay. And so we want to produce an outcome, and that outcome is peace. So if we focus, let's say, on infrastructure, virtual exchange would apply to creating the infrastructure for peace, even though it aligns with SDG number 4. So 2 faculty from universities would come together to design an experience for students, to design opportunities for those students to collaborate. And in that collaboration, it can be filled with friction if there isn't some level of understanding and some level of consensus and agreement. And these are all skills and tools that we get to learn as peace builders, because again, it's something that happens by design. So do we know though? Do we know that it happens by design? And that's part of the way I get to talk about it. Do people know what the outcome it is that we're looking to achieve? Do people have the motivation to achieve that outcome? And what would it take to achieve that outcome? And that's where I focus on this cultural intelligence piece, which is our ability to understand, adapt, and then take an action, right? To work together with people from different backgrounds. Relational intelligence is our ability to come together to produce an outcome. And so there are all these different methods related to cultural intelligence and, say, relational intelligence, but we don't talk about them. We just kind of expect people to show up and know how to get from point A to point B. And all of that comes with a design process. And so that's one of the parts that I get to talk about in international education, especially for peace. So thank you so much, Sophia, for the opportunity to be here. I hope I didn't speak too long, and I'm definitely willing to go longer, but I know we have a timeline.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrea. And first, let me quickly say congratulations on your recent TED Talk, TEDx talk. Really appreciate you and thank you for giving us that taste. Are we ready? Are we taking it for granted? David, you have worked in some of the most intractable conflict contexts around the world, and you continue to do so. So, honestly, thinking about it, like Andrea spoke about, being deliberate and so on, but when there is so much going on, how does one approach such contexts with the aim of building peace? Over to you.
Thanks very much, Sophia and Andrea. Really enjoyed your teaser there. It was very interesting. So I'll also be a student on this course and joining the different classes. So again, another great question, and I think one of the key things for me is the point of departure that every context is, of course, different and needs to be approached, um, you know, with its own specificities. And I'm not talking here about every context being every country, but us understanding that when we speak about a conflict in, say, Syria or in the Niger Delta or in Iraq or other places, we're in fact talking about hundreds of micro conflicts. And it's approaching each one of those uh, in a smart, strategic way that is important. I'm going to share a map and I'm going to take you to three of the places where I've worked. This is a map that kind of covers the range of projects we've implemented over the years. And if I went to school in this line of work, I went to two schools. I was schooled in Nigeria and I was schooled in Russia. Those are the two places where I cut my teeth and I learned, how to do this work um, effectively. And I want to take you to where it kind of started for me as a consultant some 20 years ago in the Niger Delta. And this, for the Nigerians among you, is a while back. Things have, of course, changed. But back in those days, part of what we and I was involved in was working for, bad oil companies doing bad things, but trying to do better. And a lot of what we did back in those days was really working on resolving company community conflicts. But in so doing, given the fact that, in order for you to have a deal that sticks, you need a cohesive interlocutor. We ended up doing also intra-community conflict resolution, inter-community conflict resolution type work, as well as interfacing with different criminal armed groups, different resource nationalist groups, etc., in order to really address the issues that were at stake. So I think part of the answer from my experience in the Niger Delta to your question is that if you are to do this kind of work, you need to accept and embrace complexity. That's key. And in order to navigate complex, difficult, compromised environments, you need a strong values compass. That's the only way you can effectively manage the difficult, contradictory issues that you'll encounter. I want to take you then to another place I worked, which was Iraq. And this was, again, another oil company about 10 years ago. Things have changed, of course. And this was an assignment and work over about 15, 16 months to reestablish a functional relationship between Marsh Arab communities and our client, with a view to basically progressing, well, let us put it this way, arriving also at win-win solutions to address the issues that both parties were confronted with. In this kind of environment, you're not only dealing with a conflict, but you're dealing with, for example, a client in our case, who was doing lots of stuff that was triggering violence. So you work across a spectrum of issues, everything from lowering the surveillance cameras that were facing outside the compound to below the roof level of the communities next door so that you would not compromise the privacy of families that were sleeping on the roof. Everything from making sure that the security guards were not openly carrying guns when they were escorting people, but were applying some of the methods that we know from certain armed forces in the world that reduce tensions and inspire more confidence. So it's really about thinking creatively and holistically about an issue and being prepared to work with a range of different stakeholders. Now, the other thing which is important is sometimes peace and working for peace and peace building requires a bit of tough love. You have to deter bad behavior. And that is a tricky piece because you don't control the deterrence often. But bad behavior exists and comes from all kinds of stakeholders. And if you want to progress something, you need to be able to call it out and need to be able to robustly challenge it and deter it when needed in some of these environments. The last place I'll take you is to one of my favorite places and projects. Let's see here. Yeah, this one here. This is for the public sector again, many years ago in the Malucus and Central Sulawesi. A national dialogue process, designing it, accompanying it, subnational dialogue process. This one was interesting because it was basically a subnational dialogue process that was aiming at consolidating a post-conflict peace. And we spent a lot of time thinking about an effective process that would orient the stakeholders towards that outcome. And Andrea mentioned, process design in order to create outcomes and co-create outcomes. And this was really an example of that. And here there are a few lessons for me. One important one was really about being ready and nimble enough to leverage opportunities as they present themselves. These are fragile, difficult, volatile environments, even in post-conflict settings when you're trying to consolidate peace. So really understanding and being able to see those opportunities and progress them as and when they arrive is important. And there's a saying that by some of the European military generals of the First World War that no battle plan survives contact with the battlefield. And I think that is really often the case in these environments. You have a plan, you have a strategy, but you must expect it not to survive intact when you start implementation. And maybe the last thing I would say is that you need to be ready to work across language barriers, but not only language barriers, cultural barriers, socioeconomic differences and barriers, especially if you are like me, Norwegian. You come from privilege, you enter environments which are not privileged. And being able to place yourself in the shoes of another human being, communicate across language, across culture is really key. And this is where, again, Andrea, I'm referring back to you, this relational intelligence is really important. You've got to be able to read body language, to, use appropriate body language in these settings to inspire confidence and trust. So in this course, I'll be jumping from one place to another, drawing out some of these very practical lessons, going a bit down memory lane myself, and enjoying the discovery process with you. Back to you, Sophia.
Thank you so much, David. Complexity and just really being able to navigate all of that. And I mean, if nothing else, attend the Peacebuilding Masterclass so that you can remember your geography because I think that will be something I will need a reminder of. Different contexts, just the most, it's amazing when you see different contexts, as David said, mini contexts, even within, we're not talking about countries. In a country, you can have multiple hundreds of contexts. So thank you for sharing that. David is is a renowned expert in this stuff. And I'm so happy that he started off in our home country. So that's amazing. And thank you for appreciating. And let me just say, if you have any questions as we go along, we'll see how much time we'll have at the end, where you can we'll see how many we can take. Um, David mentioned something about, and again, referring to Andrea, about process design and so on and so forth. And Edson, I'm gonna ask you, like, we do talk a lot about uh things and issues, especially those of us in civil society and related to conflict. And then policies come into place, right? White papers are signed, peace agreements are signed, and so on and so forth. But there seems to be a constant disconnect between policy and real action on the ground. And we're seeing a result of that in a number of violent conflicts around the world. So, how can peace at the grassroots be practically driven, or peace, at policy level? I mean, be practically driven. Like, how do we translate all that talk into real action on the ground? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sophia. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, though a bit muffled, but we can hear you.
Okay, let me just maybe adjust my words. I just want to appreciate what Andrea and David has already alluded to in line with peace building, especially the experience that David had in various countries or places that he has worked in. But basically, you are absolutely right that there is often a gap between high-level policy and also the lived realities of communities. And bridging that divide, I believe it also requires bottom-up strategies that empower local actors and foster sustainable peace. And of course, in this response, I'm going to just highlight maybe a few core strategies that I believe we can also adopt in terms of addressing grassroots peace building. So basically, you find that we have issues to do with local ownership or community engagement. Despite that, there are policies that are in place that have been crafted. It is critical that the people that are going to be implementing these policies are fully engaged, and they have ownership in terms of whatever policy they put in place to address various peace building issues. So, in addition to that, peace initiatives must be led by the community itself. Yes, the policy might be there, but we have the actors the people in the community who are supposed to take a leading role. And this should not be enforced from up, maybe just coming down, but I believe a bottom-up approach in terms of addressing peace building issues is going to help in enabling or making sure that the involvement of the community will bring about trust from the people. It builds trust, there is relevance, and also there is a long-term commitment that is going to come along with engagement or inclusion of people who are the actors in peace building within a community. Of course, experience tells that a lot of dialogue or mediation is also done in terms of the inclusion of the actors of the community, which I believe is also another core strategy that can be also adopted. But over and above that, there is need to also facilitate open conversations between some conflict groups, such that at least the issues that might be emanating within the conflict issues are also addressed in the process of having such conversations. I also believe there is need to use some trained mediators who also understand the cultural situations within that environment. And of course, cultural exchange and reconciliation programs must also be done to make sure that this takes precedence within a community. So in other words, again, there's need to promote empathy through shared experiences, storytelling, and also intergroup activities. I'm coming from a sporting background where I've seen sport playing a major role in terms of addressing conflict situations. And you'll find that in most cases, in terms of policy, for example, through sport already the United Nations Sport for Development and Peace policies already there, which I believe harnessing from the existing policies by creating intergroup activities with sporting competitions, all these play a major role in addressing peace building. Then you'll also find out that peace is more likely when the basic needs of people are met and when people feel invested in their future, which I believe through policy, these are some of the issues that need to be addressed, such that the conflict groups within a community are able to coexist and also get to understand each other. But maybe lastly, I'll also talk about involvement of youth and women in peacebuilding activities. You find that this is key because it's easy to have peace at the grassroots and also to practically drive peace within grassroots as we involve the youth, women, these special groups, and we can have youth as ambassadors and also empower women as community leaders in making sure that conflict situations or peace building is attained in a community. So basically, in a nutshell, these are some of the strategies that can be adopted. I know a situation or a case of Rwanda, they call it the Gaka courts, which show that their community-led programs to address all the conflict situations and rebuild the trauma and rebuild trust. I think that's the main thrust of that project in Rwanda. But otherwise, thank you so much. I believe there's more that we can talk about in terms of peace and also policy. In terms of policy, government has got a major role to play. The non-governmental organizations, especially in addressing peace building at grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edison. And you've talked about community and loving those terms, particularly love bottom up, right? And about how no matter what we write, no matter what we say, they're not you can't force them on communities. There has to be that will. And there's just a thread going through each and every one of the titans as they speak. And that the issue of inclusion and so on, but that sense of community and them wanting to develop that culture of peace actually leads me to Hollister and Kathy. They are on this amazing group and community. And my question would be, in building a global peace building community with empathy and care, those words are particularly very important within the Euphrates Institute. What actually is one key challenge that you faced, and how are you addressing it? Over to you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you everybody who's been sharing. It's like you said, there's lots of threads going through the conversation spaces, and we're just grateful to be with everybody. And I love that you call everybody Titans. That's such a fun new vocabulary addition. I haven't thought about our work in that way. So thank you. Thanks for bringing everybody together. Katie and I we're on the leadership team for Euphrates Institute, and our whole organization foundation is based on creating a community of practice. And so I would say the key, like there are several challenges with that and creating, because it's a virtual community. But the main one is just in and of itself what it is, like building the community, I think is the key challenge. And there's lots of elements that we incorporate to try to address that. And Katie's going to talk about some of the specific challenges, but I'm just going to set the table with like the foundation of what we do is to create communities that foster everything you all are talking about: trust, inclusion. How do you do it in a virtual space? Because all of you are here. I know that you all work in virtual spaces like we do, we on the ground, but also in virtual spaces with the gift of technology. And when you're doing this, any community in person or online, it's really easy for voices to be quiet and conversations to be polite and kind of shallow. But as you mentioned in the very beginning, when you were introing and teeing us up, like we've really efforted to create deep empathic communities, community practices. And there's so many stories we have from around the world where we have seen and heard of the effect of individuals who really center deep listening and creating really concentrated circles of conversation to like experience impact and growth and healing, all the things that we really want as foundational elements of peace building. And it's been done by being very intentional in practicing empathy and care and really deep listening. So, specifically, Euphrates has addressed this by applying principles from the Circle of Trust, which is from the Center for Courage and Renewal. It's an incredible organization started by Parker Palmer, who has a Quaker faith-based tradition and just brings a lot of wisdom to what it means to create safe spaces for reflection and deep listening in a way that brings equality to every voice, which is incredibly important in creating trust and creating and building these communities. It's a method that is designed for really small groups to medium-sized groups, I would say. I mean, you can practice it in any size, but it allows you to like really explore the inner wisdom, like co-creating, like we're all doing and we will do in 2026 when we have this class, like just co-creative learning spaces where everybody has this internal inner wisdom and guide and teacher. The Circle of Trust has 11 touchstones, and they describe all of the ground rules for creating safe spaces that help people slow down, be present, listen to themselves, listen to others, not try to fix or advise. I can pop a link in, or Katie will eventually. I have it on my screen. I'll do it in a second for the touchstones if anybody's interested. I just think it's a super valuable tool in this open space. I think it's helpful to share tools with each other. And what we found is by really slowing down and practicing presence with individuals in these virtual contexts, we've invited in stories from traditionally underrepresented voices, and we go beyond just like virtual connection into a real community of practice. And it happens magically across all kinds of differences, all identities, and obviously huge distances, where we have community members in about over 60 countries. So that all get to experience this practice together. And what we've really learned is that transformation and growth occurs in these circles, mostly when we aren't there to give answers or to fix each other's problems. You know, people may be bringing forth like incredibly challenging conflicts at the interpersonal level, at the community level, or even in an international context. And rather than offering answers and solutions, we really just provide presence and listening, and then naturally ideas come forward. And this is the foundation for all of Euphrates' work. whether in a workshop or a class or a program that we offer. And it just has made all the difference. And we've really found that as we've listened to each other, we found that this art of listening is what most individuals center at their practice of peace building. Anyway, the ones that are successful, I guess, center this. So in partnership with the Circle of Trust as one of our methodologies, we have really emphasized the practice of deep listening as like an art. We all have a lot of practice talking. We're all doing that today, but we're also practicing listening to each other. And we really understand that we have to practice this as an actual skill. It's not typically taught in schools. You always are hearing things, but maybe really learning how to listen isn't centered. And so we have centered that as a part of our foundations or a part of our organization's work, and really have seen that by practicing deep listening, we are beyond words. And so we've naturally helped create, I would think everybody who has experienced us, I would hope, I guess, that everybody who's experienced a Euphrates program or workshop or conversation space has felt that they've been heard, and that it's an empathic community that's really grounded in deep trust and care, which I said at the beginning is kind of one of our most challenging, like the key challenge that we face is how to actually build that community. And I think Katie might have a couple of additional ideas to answer, so I'll zip it for now.
No, Hollister, that was great. And yeah, thank you all for, being here and sharing your wisdom. I'm learning so much already. So I'm so excited for this 2026 class and just to dig in even more. I'll just keep it brief, and I'll just, kind of yes and what Hollister shared about the importance of listening and as a tool, as a practice. We certainly are on this journey of peace building as a practice, and listening is an essential part of it. And as I was prepping for this call and just thinking about, the key of Euphrates work and the challenges that we're having, and I was like, okay, Katie, keep it real. Like, really, what's the challenge? And it's I think we do a really good job, or personally, I try to do a really good job of listening to the quiet voices, centering those voices of people that have been historically marginalized. That has been the work. But what's really challenging is the people that you just don't agree with, right? It's just those voices of individuals that feel so aggressively loud because of you're just not in alignment with values or whatnot. And how do we continue to be in community with people that we disagree with? How do we have the difficult conversations? How do we continue to see the humanity in people that are more challenging to love or to include in our peace building journey? And so that's just one of those things that, we continue to explore. And I hope that, as part of the course next year, that we can continue to explore. So thanks, Safia. Back over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Hollister. I joined the monthly global calls that we have at Euphrates every month. And honestly, I can truly say that it's almost like, okay, that little bit of rest where I can during the week in the midst of everything. So, I personally have seen, aside from my peace building work, have seen the power of just that approach and the listening approach, but also highlighting the fact that it is a reality. It is true that there are voices that are really, lack of a better word, harsh, but more difficult to relate with. And how do we go beyond when we're not listening to each other, right? Or when there are voices that want to dominate. There may be other ways that we may have to communicate. And thank you, Ingrid, for being here. Ingrid is the photographer extraordinaire, and she's going to tell us a little bit about an experience of the power of photography to build peace and what she learned from that experience. Because, yes, sometimes it might be difficult to get across with words, even no matter how much you try, and we continue to do so. But exploring other methods like photography. Ingrid, over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share something. I had a very crazy last day, so I did my best to kind of prepare something because I don't want just to talk, but show images. So I'm Ingrid. I'm a photographer, but mostly a facilitator. So I just took some notes from the 2 last talks that I've listened because I think it really relates to what I'm going to share now. Like you talked about bottom-up, long-term involvement, storytelling, cultural exchange, inclusion, listening, dialogue, participation, and reconciliation. And that's pretty much, I think it summarizes very well what we have discovered about peace photography. So let me... So recently, can you all see that? Yes, I think.
Yes, we're just
So
waiting.
recently we have published a guide that is called Peace Photography, a guide. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And we have done that with Tiffany Ferry, who is an academic who started to think about, I mean, if you look for Google images online, what you would find is AI images of doves and olive tree branches and this sign. And there's not really pictures of peace, but more of conflict, because it's really difficult to represent peace. So we have done a research on 26 different projects using photography to build peace, to create dialogue, to heal, to make peace visible, to change narratives, and I could go on and on and on. And they're basically using different type of photography, but we are focusing on community engaged photography practices, so like participatory photography or collaborative photography, therapeutic photography. It's not really a photographer going there as a photojournalist to document, but it's working with the communities themselves so they can take the pictures themselves. So briefly, this image, for example, was taken by young people in Belfast. They have digitally manipulated this image. It was done by Belfast Exposed. They have done 30 years of peace photography without really being known for it. And those young people, they wanted to imagine what peaceful, what their neighborhood would look like without the walls, because they were born with the peace walls, which is this one here. And they wanted to imagine what it could look like, because a lot of peace photography is imagining what peace could look like, because if you don't know what it looks like, how can you visualize it? So that's a bit of the summary of the research we've done. And we have found out that photography can be used, as I said before, for dialogue and connection, to navigate differences, for healing and resilience, to spark imagination, for agency and resilience, and for visibility. So quickly, some examples of projects. For example, this project is a project that I run online, because you can also do it online. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. And we did that during COVID with the Colombian diaspora victim of the conflict who lived in Spain. And we wanted to use photography as a way to transform their traumatic past into a more hopeful future. So we worked together with a therapist towards that. This is another example of project in the US where a professional photographer does kind of a long-term photography teaching with ex-veterans from the war, mainly from Iraq, using photography as a way to process all their traumas, and their images are really, really, really powerful. And then another one, for example, that is in Rwanda, where after the conflicts, as you may know, people lost trust between neighbors. So the photographic center from Rwanda wanted to recreate the trust. So they trained young people in photography, and then they organized the exhibitions in the homes of people, which is why it's called homestays exhibitions, where people would just go into neighbors again, and then that would spark the dialogue, because images spark dialogue automatically. Then another example, that's again in Northern Ireland, where some young people worked together from both sides of the walls, but without really meeting each other. And then they exchanged pictures as a way to dialogue and see each other's perspectives. In Nepal, there is this amazing project where they work with women, and they do what we call counter archiving. So they do participatory archiving, where they find images of women who are part of the history of Nepal, but the history's never been told about them. So they're recreating the history of Nepal from the women's perspective. And then that's in the Cox's Bazar. There's a collective of Rohingya refugees living in the camps, and they created a collective of photographers and also filmmakers to document the realities in the camps from their own perspectives, rather than having it from the external journalists. And that's in Colombia, where a group of ex-FARC members, where some were photographers during the conflict and others became photographers afterwards, and they created this collective, again, of photographers and filmmakers, and also documenting what Colombia looks like now from their own perspective, but not only peace, but also what is the conflict that is still going on. That was in Central African Republic, where they work with women who've been victims of sexual violence during the conflict 20 years ago. And they used photography to also share their stories, but also as a way to reconciliate 20 years later, because they haven't really shared that story before. That's a very special project where, and I think it's really linked to what you all said. They worked in Colombia. They in many really rural communities, where they identified everyday peace indicators with local peoples. For example, now I can go and play football at 10 o'clock in the night, and for me that's peace. Or now I can there's an image in the guide where there's two children hiding under the bed, and the caption is, now we hide under the bed because we play hide and seek, rather than hiding because we hide from the bullets. So it's like little indicators of peace that no one can see. The NGOs can't see them, the government can't see them, but only the local people who live there can see them and make them visible. And Imaginations, I talked about it. That's a project in Turkey where they work with children, refugees at the Syrian and Iraq border. And they work with, the idea is to bring all of those children together through photography, and they have a mobile darkroom. And it's really about play and imagination, to give a space for children to be children in a time of war, and to kind of imagine what pieces look like. This is also a very interesting one in Bosnia, where they have been doing a project for a very long time on storytelling and photography and filmmaking. And for example, they've done a project where they were photographing peace heroes, people who have kind of contributed to peace, or for example, mixed religion marriage, to show how you can, even though it was a war, a religious war, there are people that still have marrying between religion, or people rebuilding life after the war. And I could go on and on and on like that. And just to finish, it all sounds beautiful and fantastic, but it's not an easy practice. And I'm sure you're all aware of that, but a lot of security and protection, and needs time and active listening and creating no harm. And a lot of, sometimes the pictures are not shared publicly if this is not what they want. And you have to be a facilitator and not come with your own agenda, and so on. And just to finish, that's the guide. Sorry, it's not playing, but that's the guide that we have made. It's in French, in Spanish, and in English. And the guide is divided between a bit of the theory. There's a lot of theory behind it, of what the kind of peace that we're talking about, which is more positive peace. And then a lot of practical advice on how to do it. And then we've also created a website with the 26 different projects. And there's 26 exercises to inspire you to do it. The idea is not to tell you do it like this, but to give you ideas. That's why we did it, basically. And that's pretty much me. Sorry, I did very fast, but
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid. I mean, Ingrid was literally in transit for her to be able to
I
join
was, yes.
this teaser. So thank you so much for making it. And I told you guys, I said if you Ingrid, could you please stop sharing? If you don't take anything away from this teaser, you're going to take away geography, obviously now the word listening, and then well, careful facilitation and listening. It just seems to continue to go through this thread. And yes, you want to learn more about this piece. Photography is a very specialized aspect of photography, obviously. So come to the 2026 class so you can learn a lot more about, what Ingrid has learned and the projects and how you can also apply that. And picking up the term of active listening. Marcia has worked for many, many years with different kinds of groups who may traditionally not have been listened to or do not have a means for their voices to be amplified. And sometimes we really want to speak about inclusivity, not in terms of tokenization. Just put a certain number of women there or a certain number, whoever the group is, whatever identity they have. So, Marsha, the question for you is, what does inclusivity in peace building really look like beyond including numbers and underrepresented profiles? And I am going to stop Ingrid sharing. Okay. Let's see. Marcia, are you there?
Hi, Sophia.
Hey, where are you? Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, Sophia.
Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry, the there's background music that's going on. There's a church service of some sort that's going on. Please excuse the music. Well, like you said, Sophia, inclusivity, we have always thought that if we bring people to the table, that's enough. And it's just a checklist: how many women, how many youth, how many persons with disability, and that's just that. It's just about numbers. It's just about the metrics. But when we talk of inclusivity, we in grassroots peace building, because that's where I've worked a lot. This is beyond numbers. It means shifting the power from the includer, who may be an NGO or an elite group in the community, those that feel that, okay, we need to include women, we need to include the youth, we need to include the persons with disabilities. It means the community member themselves, they need to be included because they have the context, they have the knowledge, and they have the relational power to make peace stick. So for inclusivity to be like real and not tokenism, we're talking about including them in intersectional conflict analysis. We are saying we don't want to dictate the solutions. We start by localizing the power to build that lasting peace. So we include them. We find out what the issues are. We make sure that the people that they are not just being consulted, they are actually getting to be part of that. So how we do it is we get into a community, we find people that are already part of that community and we train them. They become the ones that are going to lead, not the outsider leading. They are leading in the conflict analysis. They are also leading in the design, in the strategy, and the outside expert is only providing the guidance, is only providing mentorship, they're not driving the process. The process is being driven by the people that are from that community. So in inclusivity, we also noted that the people that we think are being included, we're focusing on maybe formal people that already have or that have titles in the community, and then we exclude the people that don't have titles, that are not part of the community. So it's you are already working with a group that is already included, and you are excluding the members of the community that don't have a seat at the formal tables. So other options that we use is going beyond the formal platforms and use informal platforms. The vehicles that we normally use are sport. We also use arts. So we're looking at cultural activities, cultural community festivals, maybe formal, what the different kinds of arts, which is performing arts or even the visual arts. And when we talk of the different communities, we say when we're building the piece vertically, we want to put the linkages. What we find out from the local community that's been driven, the priorities that they would have selected themselves, they must inform and influence the policies that Edson was talking about. So in grassroots peace building, inclusive peace building, which is not tokenism, but moving from tokenism to substantive power, moving from putting people on the table and also making sure that their voices are heard, their concerns are heard, they become part of the process. They are involved in the mapping, when we are mapping, ensuring that the process engages the actual drivers of the community. And we also consider the conflict sensitivity checklist, making sure that our guide before any intervention is designed, it does not do harm to those that have been excluded in the community. So we design, we make sure that it's not just consultation, but the people are involved in co-creation. We make sure that we shift power, and we shift in the power, and we are not just sharing the space with the people that have been excluded. We also listen to their lived experiences, and not just the expertise, because we note that we have people that have done some research and they are experts in different activities, but the people that have actually lived the experiences, and here we talk about the people that live with disabilities, and the people that we also work with that are refugees. They have lived experiences, so it's important to make sure that we include them in the design, we include them in the implementation, we also include them in the evaluation. And when they participate in that evaluation, we know that the interventions that we're going to have, they are going to be interventions that are relevant to them. And we are not just ticking the boxes. We are not just consulting. We are not just providing expertise. We are building real peace by including them, transforming their lives, bringing people into the process from the design to decision making. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you, Marcia. That was just an excellent ending, design to decision making. I love it. And also this thing about shifting power from the includer. I really like that. That's incredibly powerful, because even in that, the power dynamics that are happening there tend to, exclude. So thanks so much for sharing and actually going to practical examples of how we can do that. The interesting thing is we started talking about, from Andrea up to Marcia, we were talking about processes and systems, and everything else have been all the ingredients that we put in. So, for me, I'm just satisfied. I feel like I have everything. It's good to go. Do you want to hear more? Next year, you're going to have 2 hours with each of these amazing people, and several others. So just imagine how much you are going to benefit from the Peace Building Masterclass in 2026. Now, I must stick to the time because I have, everyone, I cannot dare not to. So I'm just going to quickly put up the survey, the post survey, to hear your thoughts about the meeting. Can you see the survey? Is it up? The poll? If someone can confirm for me if they can see the poll. Yes? No? Ah. Yeah, so much for my expertise in Zoom. So anyway, yes, the poll is up now. So we would like to know how useful you found the event. Thank you. And also your levels of interest in attending the actual masterclass. As we said, there can be 12 sessions, powerful sessions, one with everyone as much as is possible, but 2 hours with each of these experts. Imagine how much you're going to get with that. We also want to know what topics you're very interested in. So we listed the topics over there. What topics from the 2026 master class are of most interest to you? You can select as many options as you want. So if you could please go ahead and answer the poll, that would be helpful. Waiting for some answers. I'm going to mute you, Marcia. Okay. All right. So the poll is up and we're waiting for some answers just to get a sense. And if you want to instead just, you can send in some feedback as well into the chat. That would be helpful for us as well. I'm very curious. It's like we have a group that's not particularly crazy about polls, I see. All right. So we're just waiting. We'll wait for like 30 seconds and then we will be out. I want to appreciate every single Titan that has joined us. I like saying the Titans, the peace building Titans that have joined us today. We've put in the chat more information, how you can get more information. You're going to receive the recording as well as links as to how you can be part of the actual Peace Building Masterclass in 2026. And you will also, feel free, reach out, know these people, they're amazing people. That's very strange though. I'm wondering why everyone is not able to do it. Because we're not having.
From the host side, anybody who's a co-host cannot participate, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
fine.
letting you know that.
Thank you. That's very interesting. You guys are not a very poll friendly group, are you? Okay. So I'm going to be guessing. I'm going to assume that the answers are positive. Anyway, you're going to get more information. Thank you. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined. I truly appreciate you and looking forward to the 2026 masterclass. And you can drop in any messages, any links you want to in the chat, anything you would like the entire group. And for the rest of us, any accolades you would want to drop in as well are appreciated. But we've seen a lot of emoticons going everywhere. We truly appreciate you all, and we're looking forward to 2026. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Yeah. Thanks,
Esther.
everybody.
Thank you, Sophia. Thanks. Great to be with all of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
See
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.